Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nate. I also go by Hockey Boy Nate. And today, we are not echoing. Thank the Lord. That is amazing. No, I'm serious, though. I fixed most of my issues for Streamlabs. I'm starting to work on my live streaming setup again. So, whenever we do live stream again, that should be all back up to date and we won't have any issues in the future. Hopefully, please pray to God that Streamlabs does not delete all my stuff again. Anyways, our discussion topic for today will be still some severe weather to linger around in the United States, but also a massive cold spell, as well as the chance for some snow. Yes, you heard me correctly. Snow in the north and east into the New England areas. But before we get started, please be sure to do me a favor, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family, follow me on social media, join my Discord server in the description down below, and yeah, that'll basically be it because plugging is stupid. Am I right? I hate myself. Anyways, let's go to the Storm Prediction Center for the next 3 days. Look at this. Look at this. Monday, no thunderstorms across the board. I never would have thought this day would come, but believe me, it has came. We have no thunderstorms predicted for today. This is Monday, March 29th, and we have no thunderstorms. I just had to emphasize that a couple more times because that's just absolutely amazing as to in regards to what has been happening over the past 2 weeks. We still have a couple marginal risks here from Tuesday into Wednesday. No other areas of severe weather from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. However, I will say the beginning of next week is when severe weather can start to ramp up, and that will mainly affect the Central Plains area. So if you live in the Central Plains, or if you know anyone who lives in the Central Plains, just inform them that around the beginning of next week is when we can start seeing some more severe weather. And I'm actually really watching that very closely because there very easily could be a severe weather event that, well, it's looking interesting. I'll say that much. I don't want to say it's going to be like an outbreak or whatever because we're really far away, but we'll get into what's happening the here and now, and we'll focus on that later. Here's the marginal that was issued in day 3 yesterday. It has not changed whatsoever. So places in the Texarkana area into Shreveport, north of Monroe, all the way over into the Memphis areas. Little Rock is in this. That's your marginal risk. You also have a general thunderstorm risk that just extends into much part of the country, the southern parts of the country. So it's not really that big of a deal. Sorry for blinding you all. The chances for that is a 5% chance of you seeing 1-inch sized hail or larger within 25 miles of a point, and 58 mile per hour winds or greater within 25 miles of a point as well. No tornado risk. You can see it says less than 2% in all areas, so your tornado risk is very slim tomorrow, but still something to keep in mind. There's some general severe event. And then this right here, in my opinion, could be upgraded within the coming days, maybe into a slight risk for wind, more or less for wind. I don't really foresee this to be a large tornado threat. I actually think this is a smaller tornado threat because the wind shear is not as significant. It's very much so not as significant, actually. It's more on the average spectrum. So, but you still have this giant marginal that extends from the mid-Atlantic all the way down into the deep south into places like Houston, all the way down into like New Orleans, Mobile, all the way up into Atlanta, going all the way up into Greensboro, and into Richmond, and then through the Appalachians back down to places like just around Jackson and stuff like that. So just keep in mind that there is some severe weather forecasted over the next couple of days from Tuesday and Wednesday. All right, let's take a look at the GFS real quickly, the global forecasting model, and see the general overview as to what all is happening. So right now, there is a little bit of snow that's pushing through the northeast right now, and that won't go away. I mean, this low pressure will, but on Wednesday, you guys might see another band of snow, and we'll get to that in a second. But you can still see this low pressure right here. This is a second one that's starting to form. That will mainly be localized into the northern parts of the country, but this is also where the severe weather will be coming from. So here's Tuesday morning, a lot of snow in Canada, heading on through, and actually goes into the Ontario areas, the northern parts of Ontario. A lot of snow here. But then here's Tuesday evening. You can see that severe weather that starts to kick up into parts of Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, all the way into Louisiana, Texas, Oklahoma, stuff like that. So severe weather does linger. It's mainly because of this this line, this front right here from the storm. There's also a new low pressure system that forms off of that line, but it's not really too strong. And then this is Wednesday morning into the afternoon. You can see this giant band of thunderstorms that start to form. And I'm actually watching the Deep South really heavily here, somewhere down and around here, to where there could be a higher chance for tornadoes, especially if the low-level jet does kick up a notch and allow these storms to rotate. But that's still something that we're going to have to monitor as this day gets closer and closer. Meanwhile, in the north, you can already see snow over in Canada, but as this continues to transpire, look at this. Now there's more snow that appears, all the way from places like Columbus, all the way over into Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse now. So many areas of snow, and now more snow is developing in the north and east. Practically almost all of upstate New York is kind of covered at this point. Vermont, a lot of freezing rain in Maine and New Hampshire, but a lot of lingering snow and a lot of cold temperatures that are going to be dipping down. And so this entire area, filled in red, if you will, that is going to be where the coolest temperatures are going to be, and that I would not be surprised if some other areas get cooler temperatures as well. And then as we continue on through, we're kind of in a bit of a cold spell here. This is what we like to call a ridge, and we'll focus on that in a bit as to how we can see those ridges with the models. But we're in a bit of a ridge where this high pressure just sits right here, and it prevents any sort of other systems to kind of push on through and create severe weather, especially since lows hate highs and highs hate lows. Lows try to go away from highs. Highs just kind of sit around and be a nuisance. It's like your younger sibling, you know. You may like them for a little bit, but you don't really want to be around them a whole lot because they can get annoying. So it's just one of those things where it's not really looking favorable for severe weather all the way up to the end of this week. So Wednesday and onwards, it'll be pretty calm for most of the country. And then when the high pressure decides to go away, just like your younger sibling will eventually do so over time, then that's when you'll get your new area of thunderstorms that will begin to develop. And that's where we're starting to see the beginning to the middle part of next week. That's when I can start to officially say that more thunderstorms will be on its way, and that we'll have some pretty interesting severe weather across portions of the Central Plains. So beginning to middle part of next week is when we can officially start out with these the severe weather event. Let's go ahead and head over to the snow forecast here. This is for the north and east for right now, and you can see there's already some amounts of snow that's falling in the higher elevations, but as it heads on through into Wednesday, you can see the snow really starts to pile on, and places in West Virginia could easily see snowfall amounts up to at least an inch, maybe even up to 5 inches if you live in the higher elevations. Some areas near Columbus could see a light dusting, a brief dusting, same with Cleveland, but as you get further east, it's places like Canton, head towards Wheeling into Pittsburgh, north of that to like the Erie areas, maybe south of Erie, all the way over into New York, like Buffalo, maybe not like Buffalo, but a bit further south of Buffalo, near Rochester, near Syracuse. Those areas you guys can start seeing the heavier amounts of snowfall. So basically, northern parts of Pennsylvania and up into New York, you guys can see about 3 to 5 inches of snow, as well as some areas in New York, especially in the higher elevations. You guys can see 5 to 8 inches, maybe even 8 to 12 inches of snow, and even higher, larger amounts in higher elevations. It really matters if you're in the higher elevations, mainly because your snow doesn't have a lot ways to travel, and it tends to get warmer as you get closer or further and further down towards the surface, towards sea level. So if it's higher up in the sky, it tends to get more snow. And in this case, you can see that in some of these areas. There's some areas that have 19 inches up in the upstate New York. You also have some other areas that get up to 15 inches. This is in central upstate New York. So there's just a bunch of areas that could get larger amounts of snow, and it's something that people are going to want to keep in mind. Yeah, and even in West Virginia, the higher elevations in the Appalachians, you can see that some of these actually get up to 8 inches. So, yeah, it really matters if you're in the higher elevations, because if you're not, you tend to get lesser amounts of snow. But, yeah, 3 to 5 inches, maybe 5 to 8 inches, and right around the border near like Birmingham and stuff like that. Maybe even more than that, if you're in the higher elevations, as I mentioned. And then moving on through into places like Albany, you guys could get some, but the Hudson River is really going to like bring in a lot of warm air and keep it in place. So you may not get a whole lot of snow, but in my opinion, you guys will get at least 1 to 3 inches in your general vicinity. And then as it heads into the northern parts of Vermont and New Hampshire, you guys can even see it's a very narrow corridor here of snow, but it goes immediately from 2 inches all the way up to 6 inches in some spots, which doesn't sound like a great forecast if your local meteorologist said, oh, you can get 1 inch or you can get 12 inches. You know, just like, what good does that do? So, I mean, it's a very narrow corridor, according to the GFS right here. But yeah, as I mentioned, it would help if you were in the higher elevations, and that way you can get snow if you really wanted it. I'm pretty sure no one wants to see more snow this year. Bring on spring and summer, am I right? So, just something to keep in mind, that if you live in northern parts of New Hampshire and in Vermont, maybe even the central parts of Vermont, that's something to keep in mind, that you guys could get just snow in general. I'll say snow in general because it's very hard to say if you're going to get a lot of snow or a little bit of snow. And then as that continues to move on through, the snow begins to linger, and that's your event practically there for you. So just the timing of this event will more or less be Wednesday evening into Thursday, and even into Friday night. So, well, I'll say Friday afternoon, honestly. Maybe Friday morning. Here, let's see. Let's get the timings out for this storm. I'm blabbering out of my mouth. Okay, so line of showers pass through Wednesday afternoon to Wednesday night. Wednesday night into Thursday, snow begins to develop in northwestern parts of Pennsylvania and eastern parts of Ohio. Then the snow really starts to push on through into places like West Virginia and upstate New York. And then this is Thursday morning, where snow can get pretty heavy at times into places like Birmingham, maybe some isolated precip, State College, Pennsylvania, as well as Syracuse. So Thursday morning is like overnight. Thursday morning is when you can expect some heavy snow, and then some more snow that'll begin to push on through. And Vermont will start to see this snow Thursday morning as well, heading on through into Thursday sunrise hours, where you can see some isolated precip and some lingering snow as well. And the snow will begin to eradicate from the general area at around Thursday night, but still linger on into places like Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, up really far upstate New York. So something to keep in mind with all of that. I want to go back to Weather Bell real quickly, and we're going to go to the northeast. We're going to get our winter here, and we're going to see some freezing rain totals. And so you can see some freezing rain across the board here. This is actually sleet, not freezing rain, but sleet is pretty sporadic here, especially more concentrated into the New Hampshire, Vermont border, all the way down to the Pennsylvania and New York border near Birmingham and stuff like that. So something to keep in mind, that sleet is in the forecast as well as freezing rain. Some freezing rain you can see in upwards of a tenth of an inch, and that will cause slippery roadways. So not advised to drive during this event, as you wouldn't be advised to drive any winter weather events, but still something to keep in mind there. All right. Now, I want to go down. I know I'm hopping all over the place. That was just the snowstorm. I want to talk about the severe weather real quickly, and then we'll go into our ridging here and what that means for the future. But I want to talk about our severe weather, and we'll do that by looking at the NAM model. So the NAM, the North American model here, helps us out with this kind of medium range to short range forecasts. So you can see some general thunderstorms start to push through on Tuesday evening. This is 21Z, which is about 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time. So you can see the general thunderstorms start to push through into northwestern parts of Mississippi, southeastern parts or even eastern parts of Arkansas, and southwestern parts of Tennessee. That'll continue to push on through, and more storms begin to develop even into the overnight hours from Texarkana all the way into Little Rock. And that'll continue to push on through into the Tennessee and Alabama areas, and even into Mississippi as well, into the early morning hours. Then it'll push on through. This is Wednesday afternoon, and you can see this line of storms begin to really congregate, if you will. That'll push on through into the southern parts of Alabama, into the central parts of Georgia, into places like Atlanta. So if you guys live over there, you guys could see some real gusty winds from this event, and then some more weather to possibly impact the Carolinas overnight on Thursday. So something to keep in mind there. I do want to take a look at the conditions within this event. I don't use the significant tornado parameter to base my event, but I just want to take a look at the worst case scenario, and not a lot of wind shear here. What I'm looking at is a sounding. The purpose of a sounding is for me to see what the environment is like out in front of a thunderstorm. So I'm just basically looking at what the model is predicting the environment will be like. So your hodograph is basically what the winds are veering with height. If you basically think of it like this, if you're in a satellite, you're looking down at the ground, and you're looking at a dude holding a weather balloon, and he lets that weather balloon go. It lets it fly in the sky. It will obviously move. It won't stay in one spot unless if there's no wind in the sky, which is very, very rare. But your weather balloon goes off to the top right, and then starts to curl to the right, and stays to the right for the most part. Does some kind of squigglies, every now and then, but still, that's basically what the hodograph does. Is it curls off to the right, and then it goes straight. This right here is a tornadic hodograph because generally, if you see a hodograph that curls to the right, that means there's spin in the atmosphere. There's winds veering so that you can get that spin and allow inflow to come into the storm if it ever creates a thunderstorm. So there is, this is a tornadic hodograph here, but it is relatively weak because it's not too large and it's relatively weak in regards to that. And you can actually see based off of that, that's what the helicity is for. It's the difference between the winds, the stronger winds, as well as the veering winds with the hodograph. So the displacement, or actually the addition between the winds at the surface, the winds at a specific height, that can equal helicity. So surface to 1 kilometer, that's from the surface to 1 kilometer, obviously. It's around 168, and you would want around 200 in order to consider tornadoes and stuff like that. So it's not really too strong, in my honest opinion. You do have good dew points. They're in the mid 60s. Your temperature is around 70. That's not bad as well. Your CAPE, your convective available potential energy, which basically is the measure of the buoyant force in the atmosphere between warm air rising and cold air sinking. So the greater displacement between the two equals to more CAPE. So the more CAPE there is in the atmosphere, the stronger the thunderstorms could be. So there's around 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram. This is okay for general thunderstorms, but if you want like strong thunderstorms, it'd have to be over 2,000. So doesn't really look like it's going to be all too strong here on this Wednesday event. It'll be more or less a gusty wind threat, in my honest opinion. Maybe some spotty hail. Can't rule out a possible tornado or two, but otherwise it doesn't seem to be all too likely. I just took another sounding here in northwestern Georgia, and this actually looks a little bit better. Still curls off to the right, but it doesn't curl off all too well. It's still there. Your helicity is higher, but your CAPE still lacks a lot to be desired. So that's something to keep in mind. And you have lower dew points. You would want at least around 60 in order to consider thunderstorms. 65 and above to consider strong thunderstorms. So it's in the marginal areas. More or less a gusty wind threat here. All right. Let's go back to Weatherbell here. We'll go back to the United States. We're going to take a look at the upper air wind at 500 millibars. There we go. And 500 millibars is just a specific height in the sky. So it's right around 6 kilometers, if you can roughly picture that, give or take, because it fluctuates with pressure, which is the reason why you hear millibars used for hurricanes. So it's just the pressure, but it depends upon, how strong or how low the pressure is. Not really how strong. But this right here, we're going to be looking at the wind speeds at 500 millibars to determine where our jet stream lies. And this can also help us determine as to where a trough and where a ridge is. So here is a trough. You can clearly see the jet stream dip down. Whenever the jet stream dips down, heads into this general direction, that is a trough. Whenever there is a gap in the United States and there's nothing, it's below like this arch or whatever, that is a ridge, and that's where a high pressure system can come in and be able to more or less create some favorable weather for people who live in those areas. So if we take a look here from the beginning, you can see here's our first trough that's moving on through. This was from the storms yesterday, so that's going to be pushing off to the Atlantic. You have your second storm that's coming on through, but the low pressure system just rides along the border of the United States and Canada through the Manitoba areas. And then that'll be pushing on through to where you could still see some general snow in Canada, maybe even into the northern plains, but that'll be forcing on through some severe weather into places like Arkansas and Texas. You can see the wind shear is decent around those areas. It's around 40 to 50 knots, so not bad wind shear there for some straight line winds. And then you can see as this continues to move on through, here is your trough, your low pressure system that pushes on through, your severe weather that'll be pushing on into the to the deep south and the southeast, as well as the mid-Atlantic. And then you have your ridge that piles on over here. So your high pressure, your low pressure. Now, what this means for the future here is, number one, after Wednesday, there isn't really going to be a whole lot of severe weather. So that's the good news. But if you take a look at this pattern, this is a very big ridge. This is a very linear ridge here. And so, as of right now, we're going to have not a lot of severe weather for an elongated period of time. I'd say 4 or 5 days. This is on Saturday here, and the ridging starts on we'll say Friday morning. So Friday morning, heading into Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Here's Tuesday, and here's your next system for severe weather. And the only reason you can get out of that, the only way you can get out of that ridging pattern is if a low pressure system forms off of that linear mode. So if the linear mode of the jet stream continues to stay straight, if there's a low pressure system that forms off of that, then it will generally curl off to the north. Because if you think of it this way, low pressure systems have this counterclockwise motion. And so most of your energy is coming from the south of the low pressure system. So if that energy is being put into the south, it'll be shot up and forced off through to the north and east. And so that low pressure system will generally follow that same pathway if it starts to build up that energy. But now it's still the ridge here all the way into Tuesday morning. You can still see it's pretty strong, but you have their low pressure system that's starting to move off into California. And so that could cause some gusty winds for places like LA, maybe even have some showers for places around LA, even further north and south, like San Diego. You guys could get some rain as well. You also have another low pressure that's coming on through that could create some gusty winds for places near Oakland and San Francisco, as well as Sacramento. So you can expect that in the around Wednesday, give or take. But even then, around Wednesday, this is when we can start to see our severe weather again. Here's your trough that dips on through. So your high pressure system would be located over here. That means you have your low pressure systems that are now starting to form through the trough. And this is exactly what we're seeing here, to where if a low pressure system pushes on through, then you have your energy that rises and your wind shear that intensifies as it kind of curls around the low pressure system, and it'll generally make that turn to the north. And that's indeed what that does here, to where it goes, actually it gets held in place by this other low pressure system. So that's kind of interesting. But you know, we're starting to get into some uncharted territory as it to the later parts of the model, and that's usually when it's more inconsistent. So I won't go further into that. I'll just say that we're going to be in for some comfortable weather all the way into the beginning of next week before severe weather starts to ramp back up. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys did enjoy the video, please be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, turn on notifications, share this with friends and family so that people actually know what type of weather you guys will be able to get. I know I didn't talk about temperatures a whole lot. We'll get into that tomorrow. But I just wanted to give a general overview as to whether or not thunderstorms or snow showers or whatever will be likely for the next week. So I hope you guys understand, and I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.